We have heard now 3 short presentations, and now it's time for questions and answers session. I remind you that in the table there is a place where you can ask your questions. It's priority for fees for writing the questions. Please do it to the session where is 11:55 to 12:35 parallel session, and write there a question. And we will now starting with these things. First question is, can a city or municipality lead the digital government when the central government doesn't have a strong initiative? How to get cooperation, I think, from the central government? Who are ready to answer? What to do if a central government who are not supporting initiative, or how to start?
Me?
Please be
free to... Well, it's unlikely that the national government doesn't really support municipality, but there is a case that opinion doesn't need, right? For example, local governments wants to run its own data model, data standards, whereas the national government wants to do something else, right? And probably it's already happening elsewhere, not only in Japan, but in other parts of the world. And then I think my stance is that in the direction-wise, commonality prevails when it comes to the standardization and the architecture of data. So that part, deep discussion is necessary. And then usually the standardization is led by the corporations. So including corporations not to have vendor lock-in, to come up with more common benefits for the citizen, I think is very important. I can keep it a little bit high level, but leave it to you, Marko.
Marko?
Well, I think, I don't know if it really matters who has the mindset of doing the new things, but somebody should. I mean, if there's nobody, let's say, in a country who is interested in moving forward and being the change agent, so then it's pretty clear that not much is going on. But, I'm sure if in a country there are cities that are really kind of, burning to jump on the issues and have no support from the local government, or even kind of local governments trying to stop them. So that can be a difficult situation. I fully understand that. But again, as discussed many times, so it really is about the mindset, readiness to make something new for the citizen, and well, if the local government is much better in doing that than the national government, let's get the cities or give the cities the chance.
This is a question about the political will again. What I said, so. Things will happen if there is a political will and readiness of a society, and if there is a political will in a local level and there is not political will in the state or regional level, to be honest, it's a very tough situation. And in that case, I think you should think what you can do, what resources you need, because the solutions like X-Road, what we have in Estonia, it costs a lot. And these costs are not probably acceptable for the smaller communities. If there are bigger cities, maybe they can afford it for themselves. And like I said in my presentation, in Estonian case, in Tallinn case, we were engine, we needed it, we were, hard to say, we were rich enough, but we had money to do it, and we had a political will to do it. And that's why we did the solution, and later on state took it over. So there is no unique recommendations, but if you are a smaller country, implementation is much easier, and if there is a political will also, that's only a plus. So The next question, would you recommend to developing countries to build up e-services first at city level? What are the main challenges that cities in developing states may face up? So, from what to start? City of Tallinn having a project in Uganda, and we also now facing a question about starting service providing for the citizens. If we could start from the e-solutions, I think society is not ready. And how to build the trust? Just some comments on how we built the trust in this country. First, it was political will. Somebody would like, and president was one of the engines. Then the second thing, our big companies like banks, telecommunication companies were interested. Why? They felt there might be new clients, there might be profit for them. Why not to you to give them a possibility or involve them into this game? And they put together an initiative called Look at World. In Tax presentation, we saw that aging is a challenge. Through this initiative, these Look at World run the special courses for the people over 60, 3-day courses, free of charge for them. And later on, some 20 to 25% of these people are now users of internet. Somebody talking stories about how grandmother and grandson are fighting who will play or who will look the internet site. And I think this is the question, how to build the trust. And through this banks and telecommunication initiative, and also public sector support, it somehow growed, and this country, I think the trust is crucial, because we are giving also votes through internet. In last parliament elections, 250 almost 1,000 people give a vote through internet. If you're giving your vote through internet, if you trust bank transactions, what else you can't? Just maybe comments.
Again, I think, well, first of all, it's a good idea to start from, well, what are the crucial services that people need, be it a developing country in this case, and then if you're going for just basic connectivity or education or health services, or I don't think that e-voting probably is first on the list. So then, if the city can solve, if there are ready solutions that the city can bring in, and so, I mean, maybe some of them are already implemented, for example, in Estonia. So why not? I mean, I think, you know, city could jumpstart and should jumpstart if it makes sense in that particular context. But then again, I mean, in some cases it might be that it's just overwhelming for a city. They don't have the resources. How do they get going? But then again, I mean, the solutions that are out there that can be replicable, the good news is that, just like we heard earlier, so the problems are pretty much the same everywhere. I mean, it's the same kinds of services, and therefore, I mean, it helps to get jump-started.
Maybe I forgot to answer to your question. The question was how to deal with this situation. From where we started from back office solutions. It means the service maps. We tried to put together how the service is delivered, descriptions of every service. We found them 577 different services. Behind these are maps. we started from a back office. We designed them, and later on we put it internet, and then we started to sell it. To be honest, we did two, but maybe that's not even mistakes, but nowadays we would do it a little bit different. We didn't discuss with our clients what they need. We didn't look at this when we designed these processes, service maps. And second, we maybe didn't focus as much how, through which channels we will reach our customers. That's also, now we are working on these issues. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's important to focus on 2 points. You have to ask yourself why you want to do it. In general answer, digitalization, smart city building is a plus, but why? Right? So you really have to have a pain points that you want to overcome. If it's not painful enough, the project might be apart into pieces later on. So really you have to find out to focus to start on. Secondly, in the context of the developing countries, what resources do you have is a second question. Let's say if you want to do something with healthcare, then do you have enough hospital to begin with? If you don't have a hospitals or doctors, it's not really making sense that you digitalize anything. So, roads, bridges, hospitals, cars, smartwatches, the sources of data must be readily available to implement something digital. The last one is a kind of word of caution. If you rely upon too much on gigantic corporations, it could dictate entire direction of the city's digitalization, right? So sometimes something called the gentrification occurs because of the large capital commercializing the city. As a result, land price goes up, and then communities' identity is broken up, and then not a single original citizen cannot live there for a long time. So there should be healthy tension between government, business, and local community, and that has to be designed at outset. And just jump onto the big company sponsoring the digitalization, I think it's a little bit too risky. Yeah.
Next question is about employment and ICT. Smart cities are human-centered, but how to address technology progress, digitalization of public services that replace human workers, and one of a mere interest need for people, what is employment? So do people lose their jobs because of new technologies?
Well, I think that's a huge societal question in the large, not only regarding the public sector work. Of course, there's big debates on where we are going when it's clear that there is a lot of current labor, that can be significantly changed or replaced because of the use of new technologies. And I think that will only accelerate with the developments of AI. And I don't think that public sector in any way kind of guarded against this, because there's a lot of work that can and even should be automated. Then again, does this mean that we don't need people in the public sector? I think one of the learnings so far has been that actually technology has not yet done a huge kind of displacement of people especially in areas where kind of the human touch, the human expertise, the human connection is really needed. And I think, for example, cities are in that business.
Yes, so the advent or the emergence of AI gives a good question for human being. Yeah. What are the human beings? Looking at AI as a mirror to look at ourselves, right? And then, of course, to some degree, workforce displacement will happen because of the technological advancement. But in turn, we need to ask ourselves, what do we want to accomplish with the vacant time and opportunities open as a result of the technological advancement? Particularly for that purposes, the recurrent education is becoming so important. People can keep learning to begin with. And then the having opportunity to keep learning, regardless of age or location, the background, as I think it's becoming so important. You know, life doesn't really end by just working for a single company or some single industry. At the age of 50, you may be changing to different jobs, different locations, different opportunities. So, you know, with the recurrent educational opportunities, we would like to grasp such opportunities, not the miss of opportunities. So how to put the educational system to support us moving forward, I think is very important.
Maybe just a comment. Yeah. Our experience doesn't show that we are losing jobs because of using new technologies. What we benefiting, it's quality of information, quality of the services, less corruption possibilities, fees are things. We are not even, can't tell that that's the economy, we are economing money or resources, because we have to buy computers, software, develop software, train the people. But from the other hand, if private sector is anyway ruling in this world, we are using workforce who is ready to use new technologies. We are in a public sector, we have to be ready, we have to re-profile our staff, and sorry to say it here, who is not ready for that, we can find a easy retirement for these people. It's nothing to do. Life is going on, and if people asking services in another way, you can't continue in the old way. And also there are all the time where services which are not be delivered through internet, like a social welfare. You have to meet face to face with people, and these questions anyway are there. So the next question is the data platform connected to regional or national data platforms? That's a question to you. Tak.
What's the data platform?
Is the data platform connected to regional or national data platforms? About ISA example.
Yeah, so it's still not completed stage yet, but just I said again, the Smart City project started from silo specific issue by issue digitalization. And then let's say you have a data from a hospital, right? Maybe coming from the digitalization in hospital processes, right? Personal health care record or the something else. And then you need to get the related data from insurance companies, right? And then you can get the additional data from your smartwatch. You know, how much you walked, you know, what's the heartbeat looked like, and you know, maybe distance you walked, the miles you run. And then by having those set of data in a single space, you can come up with better design for, let's say, healthcare or insurance policy or city design itself, possibly. So, you know, maybe separation of data, fragmentation data is just, you know, the miss of opportunities that humankind can achieve. So how can you come up with the single data platform? It's a key question. It's similar to digital single market discussion in Europe, right? And then in Japan, we don't have that, you know, idea like digital single market because it's a single country. But the idea was how can you bridge the private data and public data into one bucket, particularly in the context of the city, is what we've been talking about. And if we can do it in the size of a city, probably we can hook it up on a cloud and invite other cities to join, and then, then expand the size of the data to the nationwide.
Thank you. And we have 2 questions. And
can I just
for
comment
minutes,
that very quickly? So I think again this whole idea of thinking through actually again human-centrically through people's life events. So kind of what kinds of things we can anticipate that people are now going through or will be going through, and packaging those into something which is a service bundle solves, I think, a lot of this question of, okay, so then the data is pretty agnostic of, which, service domain of a city or which industry domain even, the data originated from, as long as you can think of, well, I mean, in this service, this data will be needed. And so how can we plan ahead and get the data at the right time for the right services? And I think that, so Simsink, for example, yesterday talked about this, that Estonia is thinking along those lines at the government level, and I think that's a very, very good idea. So bundling services and being proactive as well, thinking, ahead. You might next need this. We can help you.
Thank you for compliment. And there is a question about what to do in a small island where ambitions, but lack of talent and costs and so on. My short answer will be follow our example. But it, of course, it depends on your resources, to your readiness and so on. Any other comments from where to start? Okay. When the question to Marko, you have said that people of Helsinki are impatient. They can't wait for things to happen and they feel things must happen. It's an interesting statement. What are the predictive technologies or mechanisms to measure the emotions of people to handle the impatient nature of people of Helsinki? Is it social media or what?
Well, I don't know if that was what I was alluring to, that the city has to be always kind of have this, trigger on what are the exact emotions of their citizens. I think what I'm referring to there, that there is, let's take an example. So this is not a city level thing that much. It's the, it's both the cities and the government who have designed the latest taxation system in Finland, which to me is, really, really excellent. I mean, you don't need to fill basically, and it sort of does all things on your behalf. This is what we think that you should pay in taxes, and it pretty much gets it right. Okay, but even if there is something that is a little bit wrong, why don't you improve this thing on this? Because it's not perfect yet. That's very Finnish. So kind of, there is this sort of strive. People are actually giving a lot of this kind of feedback that, why don't you make this even better? And then that's an enormously valuable resource. So kind of, getting that constant criticism, how things could be even a little bit better, can be really useful for making the services as good as they can be.
So, I'm looking for a clock and it's 2:10. We managed well. Thank you all. Thank you. Our presentations about our topic, and I think there is lots of things to think back at home or answer from us later on somewhere here. And I remember your Tallinn kiosk is also available. There are thematic presentations also in city planning or different things. So you can visit them also. But now it's time to thank our 2 guests, Marko and Tak. Oops. If I am not wrong. will be from here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.